Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. My name's Christina Stephenson. I was born and raised in Oregon. I'm a mom, I'm a civil rights attorney, and a small business owner. And I'm running for labor commissioner because I actually fundamentally believe that Oregon should be the best place to live and work in this country. And I know that's a lot, but look, it's not going to happen unless we elect people who believe it. And I'll tell you, my day job is I represent workers who are getting a raw deal when their employers are not following the rules that are enshrined by the Bureau of Labor and Industries. So I've represented hundreds of workers throughout this state in their cases of discrimination, unsafe workplaces, wage theft. I've represented a whistleblower in his case against Wells Fargo. It's $1 billion company. We took them on and their army of lawyers and we won. I'm damn proud of that.
Wow.
But I've also owned and operated a business, a business I started at the kitchen table when my son was 3 months old. I know what it means to make payroll, the salary, the taxes, the benefits, and whether it's that terrible time in March of 2020 or a banner year, I know what it means to pay my employees well before I pay myself. And the way I see it, the labor commissioner's job is to make sure that all the employers, the workers, the dreamers, the side hustlers, everybody who makes our economy run, that they know they have someone in their corner, someone who's looking out for them, who wants them to win. And, I told you that I think that Oregon should be the best place to live and work in this country. And I say that as someone who started her career during the Great Recession, someone who actually added employees during the Great Resignation. And what we do in the next year, 18 months, 2 years, that is going to determine what the next great R word is going to be. And so how about this one? The great reskilling. Right now, we have an opportunity. We can say to the thousands of people who've left terrible jobs during this pandemic, we see you. And we can connect you to a career path that is actually fulfilling, to the skills you need to get ahead in apprenticeships that are actually accessible in high skill industries where the worker shortage right now is a worker crisis. Industries like healthcare, education, high-tech manufacturing. We have the blueprints from our great union apprenticeships, and we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait for the next Fed report, the next buzzword. Work has changed and we have to adapt. Our workers are ready, our industries are ready, and I'm ready, to start skilling up and giving our homegrown talent a reason to stay and work in Oregon. When I'm labor commissioner, together we're going to train the workforce of the future with innovative apprenticeships. We're going to hold and, enforce the laws of our state and hold bad actors accountable. And we're going to empower our good businesses to do the right thing, give them the tools they need to comply with the rules. Because no matter what industry you're part of in Oregon, healthcare, manufacturing, ranching, tourism, Oregon makes you promise. If you work hard and you play by the rules, you have someone in your corner, someone who's looking out for you. And that is the promise I want to uphold as the next labor commissioner.
Lovely. Thank you, Christina. Questions for Christina? Ellen.
Yeah, hi, Christina. Thanks for being with us tonight. It's great to have you. I loved your statement. You're so strong and you have lots of good points, but can you outline the differences between you and your opponent in this race? We've heard from too, and he's really solid as well on a lot of these issues. So it's going to be a tough race, it seems like.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been endorsed by the last 5 labor commissioners. I've been endorsed by Senator Merkley, dozens of elected officials, 30 unions and progressive groups. So in terms of the coalition that will be leading into office, we've got a great coalition that has been built. And I think the reason I have got that support is because, look, I've had Boley on speed dial for a decade. Over a decade, really. I have spent tens of thousands of hours with the law that is enforced by this agency. And so there's just no one who's going to be better prepared on day one to do what needs to be done.
Okay, good answer. Thank you.
And Alan used to work as a investigator at the Federal Defender's Office, so he knows how hard it is to win against a multi-million dollar organization. So that's why he gave you kudos there while he was unmuted. But let's see, we've got one from Andy. How do you feel about unions and their place in our economy?
Yeah, I think right now we're seeing a real resurgence of unions, and I think that's a good thing. You know, there's kind of fiction in the law that, you know, workers and employers are on the same footing in terms of bargaining. And I think any of us who have ever been an employee know that that's not really accurate. And so I've been supported by dozens of unions in my campaign here. So, you know, and when I think about unions, when I'm thinking about the people who those unions represent, you know, these are janitors, grocery store workers, carpenters, electricians, nurses, firefighters. You know, these are the people who make our economy run. And so I'm really proud of that support. In terms of what we can do at BOLI, you know, maybe I just should step back a little bit because not that many people know what BOLI does. So first, BOLI protects and defends the civil rights of Oregonians in the workplace, in public spaces, and in housing. BOLI also prosecutes wage theft and our wage and hour laws, things like overtime, meal and rest breaks. There's also a technical assistance program for employers. So an employer can call up and say, hey, how do I comply with these laws? And BOLI gives them that advice. And then the other thing BOLI does is regulate the apprenticeship programs to make sure that we have a high quality, high skilled workforce in Oregon. So those are the main pieces of what BOLI does. And so really, I think where we interact with unions is frankly a quite small amount of what BOLI does, because the folks that are represented by a union will have some recourse through their collective bargaining agreement. But sometimes they also come to BOLI. Of course, anyone is welcome when they have a civil rights complaint. And when we're talking about civil rights, what we're talking about is, you know, race discrimination. We're talking about whistleblower discrimination. So I think this is a place where we often see folks from the public sector interacting with BOLI, people who are complaining about waste, fraud, mismanagement. We're also seeing, so we have a number of leave laws in Oregon. So when people are injured, either in or out of the workplace, those are the laws that are enforced by BOLI. If someone is retaliated against, for example, for raising a safety complaint, that has been a big place where BOLI has been working as well.
Thank you. I'm sorry if my internet's like going in and out here, and hopefully I won't miss an opportunity to mention the next question or call on the next person. But it looks like we have one more in the chat. What can be done to increase BOLI funding?
Yeah, that is such a great question and implies a lot of knowledge of BOLI, which is that we have less than half of the staff that we had 40 years ago. And okay, Oregon's obviously only gotten bigger during that time. And so that is kind of priority one, is getting us, you know, what do we value? You know, our budget speaks to our values. I mean, do we value civil rights being protected? Do we value people being able to enforce their, you know, their wage laws? I mean, let me tell you, just to put it in perspective a little bit, you know, this isn't some theoretical thing. So during the 6-year period from 2013 to 2019, BOLI had a huge group of substantiated wage claims. So these are claims where it was true that the employer had stolen these wages, and only 16% of those claims had a penalty associated with it. So that means that basically all of these employees, I mean, we're talking people who are, you know, paycheck to paycheck, they basically gave their employer an interest-free loan. The people who can afford it the least. And so only 16% of those people had a penalty associated with that, because BOLI is allowed to assess penalties. And then only 1% was actually collected. So we have a long way to go to I mean, just the most basic thing of people getting paid what they earned, and having just like the tiniest bit of recourse when that hasn't happened. So we have a long way to go. And then I will tell you, we're going to have to make the case to the legislature. And having spent the last several sessions in the legislature, so what I do kind of for fun is I go and I help get laws passed that help working people. So paid family medical leave insurance, pay equity, the Oregon Workplace Fairness Act. This is stuff that I just do in my free time because I feel that it's important. And through the course of that, I have a lot of relationships. And I think that you can see that in the list of who's endorsed me, House Majority Leader, the House Speaker. And so having those relationships when I have to show up and ask for the money that we need to do our work, I think will be important.
Good answer. All right, Nathan's got a question.
Yeah, you certainly have some impressive endorsements and people who know what it takes to run an agency and support our workers, and that speaks highly of a person. I think I'm wondering what experience you have to take over as bully, and there's a whole lot that's going on right now in that office, and Val has been an incredible bully commissioner, and with her leaving there's some big shoes to fill for sure. So I'm wondering what your experience is like leading an agency that big and representing constituents from all over the state, including down here in Southern Oregon, where it's very different than representing workers up in the Portland metro area.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I don't just represent workers in the metro area. I represent workers all over the state, all different types of claims as well. And I'll tell you, one of the things that you learn in doing these kind of cases is what makes organizations successful and what makes them not successful. And I can tell you the first thing that I'm going to do is talk to the frontline workers, because in my experience, those are the folks who know better than the managers, where the opportunities are. And I will be speaking with those folks. And like I said, I own and operate a business. And I think one of the reasons my business is successful and it has grown during this time is because I'm in the trenches with the workers. This is not something where I'm I'm not above making copies or doing all the things that need to be done to represent folks. And I think that people appreciate that in a leader, someone who is going to be who's going to be with them and doing the work and rolling up their sleeves. I mean, this is, like I said, this is not only what I do for my work. This is what I do for fun. This is how I've racked up these tens of thousands of hours. And just to give you kind of a little anecdote about how I operate. A little bit ago, Washington State said there's a group of agricultural workers who are entitled to overtime under our Constitution. And, so I got a bunch of lawyers together and we said, well, how can we do this in Oregon? We know that agricultural workers being excluded from overtime is a racist relic. I mean, that's indisputable. This was just because of the color of people's skin. And so we got together and I did a little bit of research. I looked at BOLI's administrative rules. So the administrative rules said farm workers can't have overtime, right? But every administrative rule has to have a statutory backup to it. So I looked at the statute. Turns out it had been repealed in 2017. So the basis of this administrative rule at BOLI no longer existed, right? And I brought this to folks' attention, and this was a key part of what we have now, which is agricultural overtime and a phase-in process that the legislature has passed. And so that's the kind of values driven and frankly detail oriented work that I plan to do at Boley.
That is really good work, Christina. As a lawyer, looking at that legislative history is very important. Thank you for doing that. And I do know that knowing that there was a potential administrative law claim coming was important to the ultimate vote. So congratulations on that. Anybody
thank
else?
you.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very, very powerful. Thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for taking the time. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
See you around.
Bye.